Hi there, war-weary viewers. Well, after the other night, I just had to take a day off yesterday. Mind you, I did have to do other work, to recover. And like we all know, this is a very uneven process. Trump's going to have terrible days that you think would sink a mere mortal, and other times where he just seems to emerge from the swamp. So one of those days is apparently going to be Friday because figures are going to come out that show a really healthy economy. And why is the economy experiencing this bump? It's the bright light before the storm of the tariffs, because when he announced the tariffs, lots of businesses rushed and bought and sold their particular product and what they needed before the tariffs kicked in. So there's been this huge artificial spike in the economy. So when people make that argument to you, oh, the economy is doing really well, just keep that in mind, because it will go downhill after that. So I was going to do a reading on Trump in August, but a whole month is way too long. So I'm going to do this, just 2 weeks of this corrupt and unelected president in August. So this is the first 2 weeks of August for the Trumpanzee. Okay? Come on down. All right, so much is happening, dear viewers. And I also wanted to say, oh, sorry, before I start, if you want a reading, get in touch, because I blocked out a few weeks in August, excuse me, thinking I was going away, and now I'm not. So if you want a reading, email me. I also have discounts for veterans and people on disabilities and other issues. So email me at lena.rodriguez.tarot@gmail.com if you want a reading. I've so enjoyed meeting so many of you. It's been fantastic. Okay. All right. Back we go. So the overall sort of thing we'll be looking at here is the tone for him in August, and then the first 2 weeks. Okay. Yes. All right. I'm using the Toth deck because they work so beautifully with hideous people. Okay. Now the tone would be the Three of Pentacles. Group work. A lot of group work going on behind the scenes, desperately, people trying to work out these endless deals. We have the beginning of the Cohen stuff, we have the Manafort stuff, and so the wheels literally are turning. So here we go for the tone of August. Bear in mind it's also the card of black money. Who knew? Okay, in the first week, he has an interesting combination of cards. The first card that comes up, strangely enough, is love. Well, wouldn't you think that's nice? I'm going to suggest that it's slightly more complicated, viewers. And the reason it's more complicated is it's next to the debauchery card. So this says to me more about sex than love, and we all know what's going down in that direction. So we not only have Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more disruption in regard to sexual scandals in the first week of August. He then has the Hierophant, law and order. So because he's managed to stay on his roller skates till this point, a lot of the court cases that started, excuse me, viewers, I like to speak to you directly. A lot of the court cases that started when he first came to power, particularly by the civil liberties, union lawyers and so forth, about emoluments and things like that, they're now coming on stream as well. So these court cases are beginning to pile up. And I was just reading this morning that there's a board who is looking at his liquor license for the Trump, Washington, D.C. Well, how big or small is that? This is a man who doesn't drink. Why would his liquor license matter? Well, in order to get a liquor license, you have to be of good character. And there's a case being mounted, it may work, it may not, about he is demonstrably not of good character. And one of the things that this team of lawyers is demonstrating is he fails to pay contractors, excuse me. So if you're going for a liquor license, you have to have a clean slate. Now, he doesn't pay contractors. And that's why I fail to realise why working class people support Donald Trump. You know, like, it's one of those frustrations. He also has 16 women accusing him of sexual assault. There was a third thing I can't remember just at this time. It's hard to know out of, you know, the quicksand that is his corporate life. So, what is the problem for Donald Trump if they turn down his liquor licence? Well, obviously, in terms of Trump hotels and golf courses, a big part of the revenue is alcohol sales. Now, he can get around this by getting someone else in the family to step up, but they have to be the owner. So he will have to, excuse me, he will have to sign over ownership of Trump organisation outlets to his children, one or other, probably not Frodo. And it's also doubtful that Donald Jr. could be described as a man of good character. So I just wanted to say all that because it's easy to forget when he gets away with so much, the Teflon Don, that things are chipping away behind the scenes apart from the Mueller investigation. Now, this might not fly, but he's extremely unpopular in DC, and this case is being heard in DC. So, that's a bit of background for the Hierophant in week 1 of August. Keep your eye on that, viewers. All right. Now, the Empress. In my early readings, we're into week 2, sorry. In my early readings, the Empress tended to be Ivanka. She hasn't had a marvellous week either. But I'm beginning to think more. Viewers have suggested this, and I'm coming round to this point of view. The Empress being Mother Russia. Think about that. So, I am now rolling with that interpretation. Week 2, Russia. Something to do with Russia. It's beside the devil. Quelle surprise. How could this be? So, interesting, right next to Mother Russia. So, week 2, I'm expecting another development of sorts in relation to this stuff. And lest we forget, there's the Carter Page stuff, but there's also Manafort Russian money laundering. The other thing, viewers, I want to see a tenant list of Trump Tower, New York. Every time one of these other cases turns up about somebody and something and prostitution rings and so forth, the next line says, oh, and was a tenant of Trump Tower. I want to take this moment too to remind you about Felix Sater and Bay Rock. This has yet to hit. Remember that name, Felix Sater, Russian-American, Bay Rock, money laundering, best friend of the trumpet, operated out of Trump Tower. Okay, back to the cards. Queen of Swords, possible interpretations, the sword of justice coming through, but could well be an older woman who has a very sharp tongue. I suspect it's a combination of both. I think it could be a woman judge. Could well be in the Manafort case. So my vote here for this interpretation of the Queen of Swords is female judiciary member. Okay, I pulled another card because I like to end on a major arcana. For those of you learning tarot, it's good to take a reading out to a major arcana. The Magician, up in the air, up in the air. It can be the best and the worst. So this could be the Teflon Don sliding out from under. It could also be the workings of the dark arts. We will see what happens by the end of the second week of August. So I suspect, just like every other week, since he got catapulted into power by Putin, there's going to be so much going down with this. Now, I'd just like to clarify some of these cards. Hold on. All right, viewers, just recapping for you, because I've paused and walked away and now I'm back. The first week, sex scandals. The second week, Russia. So I would like to clarify this Queen of Swords and the Magician. So I've gone back to my ultra favourite Rider-Waite deck for this. Right. So let's see what's happening with these two cards. Over the Queen of Swords, we have the Page of Cups. Now, have a look. The Page of Cups, all the pages tend to be opportunities, but in relation to something like the Queen of Swords, with the cups, this is very Neptunian. For those of you who follow astrology, notice all the blue and the ocean, and the cups are very watery. And this is a figure who is younger, much younger than Trump. So there could be deception around this. It can be a card of misunderstanding and deception. So it could be that Trump's legal team, what a bizarre lineup is Trump's legal team. So they're going to try and muddy the waters, muddy the waters in terms of what is being looked at by this female judge. Oh, with the Magician. So on the one hand, he gets the Magician card, but he also gets the Hanged Man reversed. So with this, the Hanged Man, several interpretations, not least of which is another point of view, reversed the same point of view. So in other words, Trump, I think, has an opportunity to wriggle out of something in the second week about Russia, but he misses the opportunity because he doesn't and can't change his perspective. He is so rusted on to his 12-year-old point of view of the world. One other thing before I move on, viewers. When Trump emerged from the meeting with Juncker from the EU, and of course proclaimed, as he always does, it was a huge success and they'd made real inroads and they were talking about trade deals with no tariffs. When I read the European news, all they agreed was there'd be further talks. Not quite the same thing, Donald. And this is Europe playing for time, hoping to God this guy gets either out of office or abducted by aliens or somehow gets off the world stage. So there's that. Another little story I'd like to share with you before I go. Bush Pig Lena had to go to the hairdressers. Regular viewers will know my hairdresser is Betty from Baghdad, who is actually a Syrian, born and grew up in Baghdad. She was a teacher before she came to Australia. I was sitting there with the cape on, you know how it is, all the women viewers out there, and everyone was chatting on, and this woman came in with the broadest southern accent saying, "Hi, I'm Suzanne from North Carolina." I'm sorry, I can't do accents, but there we go. And she walked up to Betty and she said very loudly and slowly, "Do you speak English?" And Betty said, "Yes, I speak 7 languages." Now, Suzanne from North Carolina was a bit taken aback and went, "Oh, okay," and sat down to have her hair done. And as her eyes went around the room, she saw all these Muslim women having their hair done. I live in a very diverse and multicultural community. And she was trying to be friendly, but she was obviously way out of her comfort zone. And she said to Betty, "Are you a Muslim?" And Betty said, "No, I'm a Christian." And again, you could see the wheels turning. "Okay, how long have you been a Christian?" And Betty said, "I'm a Syrian, so we've been Christian since the 1st century. We were the first Christians." It was hilarious. Betty, of course, one of her 7 languages is Aramaic, which is the language that the Bible was written in first. And then she went on to make the comment to Suzanne of North Carolina. She said, "Yes, I read the Bible in Aramaic. I have also read it in English, but the translations are very bad." I thought Suzanne's head was going to explode because she'd obviously thought the Bible emerged in English, fully formed, waiting for Middle America to read it. To her credit, at the end of her hairdo session, she said, "I have learned a lot today." And I'm sure she had. Okay, guys, see you real soon.